Okay, is it recording?
Yep, we are good.
Okay, awesome. It's a little bit different on this side of it. Hi everyone, welcome to Hustle and Harmony. We're a couple episodes in. You're with Ashley and Alyssa. We had our first technical glitch here today, so we're pivoting, which we love to do. We're used to
Yes.
doing that as women, right? So hopefully all goes well from here on out. But if not, we'll make it work, right? Hopefully it'll be none the wiser. Okay,
Yes.
so let's get into it. Welcome to Hustle and Harmony. We're excited to be here for another awesome episode. We have another great topic in store for you all. It's hard to choose from our list when we're preparing for these conversations. The one we have in store for you today is one that's really important to both Alyssa and I. It's definitely something that we've dealt with over the years. And so we imagine that those of you that are drawn to us and this podcast, it will likely resonate with you as
Yes.
a high achieving woman or, women who are trying to juggle a lot of things. And so today's theme is the permission to dream, empowering women to be ambitious and all the things that go along with that. So, we're going to talk through, of course, a lot of different things as it relates to that. But really, I just want to start by, sharing a little bit of my story with it or experience, right? And where this is coming from. And I think this will be common across the space and Alyssa can chime in, right? So for me, way back when, when I was starting to explore different areas for myself, starting to kind of go down my own personal growth path and build my confidence. And I was exploring different, dreams and visions and bigger ideas than I had been used to or shown up until that point. I was met with a lot of resistance. And it was both from me and from people around me. Not just in, immediate space, but all through, right? There's a lot of ripple effects there.
Yeah.
And it was really once I started challenging that status quo that it became pretty clear to me that doing that is not inherently easy for women going through the world. And it did bring up a lot of emotions for me at that time. I, had a lot of shame around it. I was questioning myself and my motives and my dreams itself at that time, really because of the comments or the vibes that I was getting from people as it related to those things.
Hmm.
And it was really hard, right? It was really tough to go through that. And so it's important to us to help validate for other women that you're not alone. We've all been there. We're all met with those certain situations or resistance, and it's okay. It is
Yeah.
absolutely okay to go down this path, to think differently. And so that's really what we want to focus on today because, it's important for us for everyone to feel like this is a safe space for them to have different thoughts and to think outside the box and to feel inspired to go down different roads and explore different paths for yourself because that's really what this is all about is about growing and growing into new and better versions for ourselves because whether you feel like you have huge lofty goals or something small, it really doesn't matter about the goal itself. We do believe that if you're here, and we've kind of talked about that before or this before, but if you're here, everyone is here for a reason, hands down, and especially those of you that are drawn to us and to this podcast, your soul did come here with an intention for this lifetime. And it often will feel uncomfortable once you start going down that path and you
Yeah.
start to express that intention. It's not easy. And so that's part of growth. Unfortunately, we have to go through the uncomfortable to come out the other side. And that's what we want to talk about today is normalizing that experience and the things that are going to come up around it. So
Yeah.
you're in for a good one here. Hopefully everyone loves it. Love to hear your feedback as always, but let's dive in. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's get started. Alyssa, kick us off with a little bit around these feelings that come up when
Yeah.
we're in this situation. Kind of where do you feel like they come from?
Yeah. So I think that society places a lot of expectations on women. It's still that like old school do the cooking and the cleaning and take care of the kids and make sure everybody has their things, take care of your husband. But then also, well, you should have a full-time job and you should be contributing financially. And it just really puts women in this place of feeling like there's a lot of different things that they have to measure up to. And so I think sometimes when we have additional goals or dreams or ambitions towards certain things, we can sometimes have a little bit of guilt that society has put on us almost for like putting things that we want to the forefront for like chasing our own goals and dreams versus just supporting our families. Like, you know, I can think of people who have said things to me, in my life that I was like, well, wait a minute, would you say that if that was a guy doing that? Like, I don't think you would. So, I definitely think that there's different expectations for men and women within the world today. And that's where those different roots of shame and guilt can come from when you decide that you have goals and ambitions. And I know for me personally, I think when I was in my early 20s, fresh out of college, had my first job, okay, like my very first job, I remember coming home from that job and being like, is this what the rest of my life looks like? Like, just like the monotony of like, wake up, go to work, come home, make dinner, do the laundry, wake up, go to work. Like, just was like,
The
I
hamster wheel
had
of life,
this
I call it.
yeah, like I had this feeling like, whoa, there has got to be more. There has to be a bigger purpose or reason for why I'm on this earth. And it wasn't that I wasn't making an impact at my job or anything like that. It was just more that knowing that that's not all life was really meant to be for me personally. I could start, that's when that tug started to happen for me. And it wasn't until I started my business in direct sales where I really started having goals again. Growing up, I had a lot of goals. I think we're very similar in this. Like I was very much a box checker of things that
Right.
needed to occur
Yep.
on the goal train. And then once you have achieved all those goals, you're like, okay, now what? Like I was always chasing after a goal. I was always a high achiever growing up. So then when you're like, okay, I've made it. I'm an adult now. I have a real job. This is awesome. I bought my first house. I'm getting married. And it's like, why do I still feel like a little bit of emptiness? And when I first felt that way, there were people who were like, well, you have all these things going for you. Like almost like why would you be ambitious? Things are going in the
Absolutely.
right direction for you. Why would you want to do something else? And it's like, you know, that's when you're
They
met.
make you feel wrong for
Yes.
feeling that way, which is
Yeah.
already the first problem because your
Right.
feelings are valid no matter
Yes.
what is happening. That's how you're feeling, right? So that's tough. Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of, where that comes from a little bit. And everybody expects us to put everybody else first and ourselves last. And this is not just, we're not talking today just about like goals and ambitions, like within business or whatever. Like, I want you to think about, I remember when it was during COVID. I was homeschooling my kids, and I was just like, I gotta start for my mental health because I know when I move my body, I feel better. And I was just in this yucky place mentally. It's like, I have to take time every single day to move my body. This has to become a priority for me. No matter what else is going on for other people, I have to make
Mhm.
this a priority for me. And I started walking and then I got into running because I'm impatient and I knew that I could do the same loop faster if I ran it. And so that's where my running came from. But anyway, I would see people and they would be like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky that, you have the time to do that. Like I have this, this, and this. And it's like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm just prioritizing it. Like it's important to me. And so it's that, again, not letting people project their feelings or their own
Right.
insecurities about what they want to do, but they don't prioritize onto you. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I think that's the things with goals and ambitions. You have to know that when you're about to do something that you haven't done before or something that's new, you need to understand it's going to be met with resistance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes it so challenging, right? And often then we fall back or we don't persist and pursue because of that. Because it's like, oh, well, it's hard, right? Like no one wants to go through hardships or
Right.
face challenges and go through uncomfortable feelings, but it's
Right.
really through the process, like through any goal, it's through the process that you actually become the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Achieving it at the end is what like a symbol of it, I guess,
Yeah.
right? But it's really the journey through it that's actually achieving it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it comes down to the fact of we as women are conditioned to the fact that we're supposed to put everyone first.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is, right? We are supposed to put everyone first. We're supposed to, I feel like, be people pleasers in that way. And so once we start to put our own needs first and things that are important to us, it it's met with questions, I say the side eye vibes and things like that, right? Of like,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? And a big one for me was, and you kind of said this, I should be happy with what I have. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have all of these things. You have all this stuff going for you. Like, you have a good job, you have this, you have that.
So that's a good point.
How could you possibly want something else?
Right, exactly. And I feel like I have had that with my kids, like because I have four kids. I remember having two kids and being pregnant with Reagan, and someone was like, well, you know, you have two happy, healthy boys, like almost like I shouldn't want more
Oh, wow,
children.
really?
Right, because
Hey.
yeah, and like I feel like like you should be happy that you have happy, healthy kids. It's like, well, I am happy that I have happy and healthy kids. I'd be happy even if they weren't like I would, it's
Yeah.
you get what you get. And but at the same time, it's like, but I always knew from the time I was little that I wanted to have four kids. I said it from the time I was little. But other people will kind of, that was, I guess you could call that like an ambition, like a goal. I want to have four kids. But there
Right.
are people that will like try to rain on your parade. And it's almost learning how to build that backbone that can withstand people's comments and people's thoughts. And that can be very difficult. And I do not want to act like I've done that well. Um, I definitely didn't do that well in my 20s. I think that as I turned 30, my voice got a little more there. Like, I don't know. It just became like I wasn't as afraid. We gained that wisdom. Um,
That we talked
I
about.
wasn't as
Yeah.
afraid to stand up for myself. So,
Yeah, I think a
yeah.
big theme is like with the resistance that was definitely helpful to realize and then to keep remembering, you've brought it up already, is the projections from other people. So the reason that people are making comments or giving you the side eye or you're getting certain vibes is because you're challenging their belief system. In
Yes.
their mind, they have a smaller vision, they're in a box, or
Yeah.
they have a certain set of beliefs. And so when you're doing something outside of it, it's challenging them and their own self. So it's like they're being defensive because you're challenging them. It's like, hey, I'm not asking you to do this, right? I'm doing it myself, but the mere presence of you doing that is a challenge for them. It's making them look internally, even though they don't realize that's what's actually happening beneath
Mm-hmm.
the surface, right?
Yep.
But that's really what's triggering those comments and that feedback from them. So if you can keep that in the back of your mind as you are facing that, it does make it easier. I'm not saying it makes it
Yeah.
easy or
No.
simple, but it makes it simpler because you
Yeah.
can see it through their vision like, okay, this is not about me, it is completely about them. And then with that, the backbone, like Alyssa mentioned, so yeah, I think that's really important. And through that, and if you have more to add on that, definitely
No, I
chime
think
in. But
I think you pretty much like put the put it all out
hit
there. Like
the
it's
nail in there. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think with that, because it does segue into stories a little bit, right? So we have like other people's projections onto us, which trigger, of course, our own emotions because we're being questioned or, then it makes us question ourselves and the things that we want. And with that, I think it also creates these internal stories that
Mm,
cause resistance in ourselves. So, like we mentioned, there's resistance from others, there's also resistance from ourselves. And a big one from it internally is all around our internal belief systems, right? That I just
yeah.
mentioned for other people. It's these stories that we tell ourselves. And when we're trying to do something else or different than what we've done before up until this point, or different than what we've seen modeled in our life or out there in the world, it challenges those stories that we hold in our subconscious that we don't even realize exists a lot of the time, right? So a big part around this or a big, step on this is just observing that inner dialogue that you have in your head. So those little voices that are in there nagging at you,
Yep.
what actually are they?
Yeah.
And almost writing them down sometimes, right? Like when you
Yeah.
feel something pop up, it's like, okay, here's this thought popped up. that thought popped up. You kind of keep track of it a little bit, and what are the themes around those? Because that's really what's going to actually give you that insight into the deeper stories. So one example around this is, well, if I want more, I'm selfish, right? That's something that we've been told or picked up somewhere along the way, right?
Mhm.
That if I want more, I'm selfish. Is that real? Like, is that
Right. Is it
true?
true?
Is that a truth?
Hmm.
Probably not. Well, actually, we know it's not, right? It's a
Right.
story that we tell ourselves, but we convince ourselves that that's a truth, right? And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of, inner work on that comes up when we're going through this process of exploring different things we want to, do for ourselves that we have to, kind of look at. So what comes to mind around that for you, Alyssa? Like around
Um,
stories and things like that.
yeah, I think we could bring back up, we've talked about this before, like that imposter syndrome can pop in.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to be doing this? Or, I've seen some people who really are working hard at changing their life. Like maybe they weren't brought up in the best childhood situation and they're really trying to make changes. And, you know, but they have limiting beliefs based on what people said to them in their childhood that then affects them in their adulthood. And it is really asking yourself, like, is this really a truth about me? And knowing that it's okay to change and you have to meet like every negative thing that comes up in your brain, you have to meet that with a positive affirmation. You have to learn how to like cross cancel out those limiting beliefs that aren't truths with things that are. And I think
Yeah.
that I wish that people taught us that earlier on in their life because
Yeah.
it's definitely not something I learned until later on that I wish was a skill that I
Absolutely.
had had previous. So,
Yeah, and it was really only from other, I'm not even really sure, definitely in my 30s through own research or exploration or kind of going down
mhm.
that whole, self-development path and things that come up. I think it's so important to your point, if we could get that earlier on. It's all about rewriting the narrative, right? So
Yeah.
we have these inner stories and narratives that construct the way that we go about the world. And so when we want to do something different, it challenges it. So then you really are challenged to look at those things within yourself. It's not easy. But that's where it starts because we're never going to be fully expressed and successful, or you're not going to push past that resistance until you really handle that. So one for me, because another story that came up for me is, well, I'm a bad mom if I take extra time away from my kids, right? Because if I'm doing anything for myself, that means less time for my kids.
Yeah.
So that was something that came up for me. And, so looking at that, if I'm gonna rewrite that a little bit. So one, is that true or is that a story? It's not true, right? That was a story I told myself. And for me, so like how I can flip that on its side is, rather than I'm a bad mom, because I'm taking extra time away from my kids, it's by pursuing, my intuition, things that activate myself passionately, I give permission for my girls, my kids, to do the same. I'm
Hmm.
serving as an example for them. And so how
Hmm.
powerful is that? Because I don't want them to have to wait until their 30s to figure this stuff out,
Right.
right? Like I want them to be doing this now, or,
So funny.
early, young in age, right? So it's
Yeah.
like by me doing these things, I'm actually showing up better for them. I'm actually giving
Hmm.
them more time, more lessons, more knowledge and wisdom,
Right.
earlier on in their life that they can benefit from. So
Hmm.
see how powerful something like that is when you can shift the perspective, and you have to think about it, right? In terms of how can I rewire that thought a little bit, but it's definitely doable and really, really powerful. I could go through a couple of them, I think, in terms of these stories that come up, but it's really common, right? The negative self-talk is just, it's all over
Yeah.
the place. It's
Yeah.
all over
I
the
always
place.
say, if I heard someone else talking to someone the way I talk to myself, I would be like, wow, they're
Yeah.
really mean.
Yeah. Would you talk
Because
to your kids like that?
yeah,
Right? I
like
mean,
I
absolutely.
can be I've been, I mean, I'm obviously it's something that I have to consciously work on, but I've always been really hard on myself, just in general. Like, I don't really know where that comes from, but I've just always sort of been that way. And when you're hard on yourself about things, you're actually harder on yourself a lot of times than other people are on you. So it's like learning, I've had to learn to give myself grace, like true grace, like it's okay. You know what I mean? And just like allowing myself to figure it out, giving myself self, compassion when I think of something that I really need to work through. And so I don't know if I think of an old story for me, like probably one of the things that I can think of is I left my full-time job to pursue my business, and I was getting a lot of pushback from people. And initially, when I made the decision, I had felt really confident in myself in the decision that I was making because I really felt like it was going to be the best thing for me. But then when other people start feeding you their thoughts on it, I started to question what I was initially confident in.
Absolutely.
Like, well, why am I doing this? Well, is this the best decision? Well, and I would tell myself these things that were just not true. Like they were lies. Like I almost felt like I was letting, and at that time I didn't have kids, so it was just Dan and I. But a part of me was like, well, I'm letting him down because I'm stepping away from something that's traditional and doing something that's entrepreneurial.
That's
And I'm
safe.
really,
I love the,
yes, safe, that safe term. And that's, I was like, oh my gosh, am I? And I really, really questioned myself to the point of I almost didn't want to tell people. Like I had this feeling of embarrassment around doing it that I almost didn't want to talk about it because I felt like I was doing something wrong. Versus now, at this age of my life, when I look back at that person, I'm so thankful that the 23-year-old version of myself had even enough confidence to know that I wasn't on a path that I was meant to be on. Like I actually followed my intuition. I wish that I would have been met with more like, yay, good for you, cheer, cheer, cheer. But I just, I just wasn't. And so that was probably one of the most difficult, like big life changes to work through for me,
Yeah,
where I
and
was
that is
hard on
like
myself.
just kudos to you again for being so young and making that leap. Like I think I've shared with you before, at least, I never could have done that early in my 20s. I mean, definitely not. Like I
I mean, it
had
was
to go,
definitely a crazy thing.
yeah, I had to go through some stuff before I even knew that there was something else in life. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Something else in life. And obviously
Mhm.
everyone's journey is different. So
Everybody's different. It was just
yeah,
my specific,
yeah,
like, I know that I'm just not, I know what I'm not now. Like, but for so many years, people would make me think, like, okay, well, you have to have an 8 to 5 job or something that's super traditional. And I think that's why I struggled in college figuring out what I wanted to actually do with my life because I thought it had to look a certain way. Being an
yeah,
entrepreneur was never anything I had ever, 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 ever considered, ever.
yeah.
So, it was a big leap, but I think that there
Yeah.
are things that come up like that a
I mean,
lot.
I think another one, another big one for me, just to share because I'm feeling called to is going back to, well, you should be happy for what you have, right? There's a big story for me and that I always have to come up against, which is, well, look at all you have, right? Like I have a great job, so does my husband. I have healthy kids, I have a beautiful home, like I even my job, like I have way more than so many people will or want. And
You have
so
a lot of
I am
flexibility.
addressed with this guilt of then why am I still pursuing other things? Here I am
Right.
on a podcast or whatever the case is, right? But the one thing that has really helped me is understanding and realizing that not everything is black and white, and two things can be true at the same time. So
Hmm.
I can be grateful for everything that I have, but still know that there's more for me to be expressed out in the world that I have to
Hmm.
pursue for my own, inner needs, right? And for my
Yeah.
own inner calling to help satisfy like what I believe to be, like my soul's mission here, right? So all of that can be true. And even at one point I felt like, oh, well, I can't like, express myself in the way that I want to if I'm working, a corporate job, right? Like
Mhm.
that can't happen at the same time. Like it felt like it had to be one or the other. Again, like understanding it's not, it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can do, you can have two things happening at the same time, right? You're a
Yeah.
multifaceted woman, right? Like
Yeah.
things are complex and nuanced and all of that. So that was another like big one for me, right? Is just
Yeah.
getting over that the guilt or being grateful for what you have. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think the big lesson in that whole segment is around the stories, understanding what's coming up for you, because it's going to be different for everyone. What are the common thoughts, that negative self-talk that keeps coming up?
Hmm.
Actually making note of them so that
Yeah.
you can then sit down like with some actual, like take some time and sort of analyze, okay, what is this? What is at the root of this? What's the theme of these things that keep coming up and why? Are these real truths or are these stories that I'm just telling myself and how can I shift them? Because that
Yep.
can be really powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then
Okay.
I think that kind of segues into how to own your power, like how
Yeah.
to own um, what your goals and ambitions are, and like the things that you're feeling and the dreams that you have. As women, we have these little girl dreams that like we are so ambitious as kids. Like, I don't know, there's like a Kanye West song or something. It's like can't tell me nothing. And I think that as kids, like that's how we are. Like people can't tell you anything. You
Right.
believe that you're gonna go, like I always say my boys, like they're gonna go to the NFL. That's what they think. And they're gonna do all these things. And I literally one time had someone say to me, it was because my one son, Kellen, like he'll every paper in school that's like, what do you want to be? His has always been, I'm going to be in the NFL one day, whatever. So I say to him, when you're in the NFL one day and ESPN is interviewing me, I'm going to show them that you've known this all along, right? Like we joke. And I had someone say, well, aren't you ever going to like, kind of like rein him in a little bit and like make him think a little bit more realistically? And I was like, nope. Never. Because that's what happens to us as
Yeah.
adults. We have people who pour their thoughts into us, and that power that we had as our true authentic selves as children, we kind of lose that in the process. And so it's all about like learning to dream again. Like, what is it that you really want? It's okay to dream. It's not selfish to dream. Um, and, really just what I find is helpful is looking to other people who've done it. So if you know no one in your circle who's like risen above and gone out of their comfort zone to like build their dream or accomplish their dream, then you got to find somebody who has.
Yeah.
Because when you try to tell big dreams to small thinkers, you're going to be met with exactly what you don't need, which is a lot of people trying to talk you out of what you want to do or how you think or whatever. You need to surround yourself with people who think like you. That's how this podcast came to be. That's why
Yeah.
we click so much because we think at a different wavelength than a lot of other people think. And we can't tell our goals and dreams to people who are small thinkers because they are never going to get it. They're not going to get it. So, I think it's kind of those realizations, surrounding yourself with the right people, having the right people in your life, educating yourself. What books are you reading or what podcasts are you listening to? That's where you're going to find people um, who think the way you do and who are going to empower you. Like one of the things that I do every day is I listen to something positive every single day. Something that's going to like get my mind in the direction of my ambition, right? Like to keep
Right.
me kind of driven and motivated. And so, but you got to watch who you're listening to and just know that you stepping out of your comfort zone is going to inspire so many other people to step out of their comfort zone. A lot of times people just need to see somebody else do it first before they can like think about doing it. I see videos of people who like go on these vacations and they jump off these giant cliffs into the water and like people are like all standing at the edge. It might be like a family group, and like they're all
Yeah.
standing like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could do this. And then the one lone nut has to do it first before other people are gonna
Right.
do it. So like you got to be the lone nut. Like you got to be willing to be the person who puts themselves out there. I don't know what book it was that I read, maybe. It might have been a Brene Brown book, maybe not. But it was like you got to set yourself on fire. Like you have to be okay with being different
Yeah,
than
being the weird one,
the
or
weird one, right? Like you got to be okay with it. Like I
right.
know people think I'm weird. I know it. As much as I'm like that, oh my God, I want everyone to like me. I totally get that they think I'm weird. I totally
Yes.
get that they don't understand what I do. I totally understand that. And I'm like, I'm cool with it because if they would take the time to get to really know me, they'd probably be like, wow, she's like really empowering. Because I say to people, like, if you have something crazy you think you want to do, tell me. Because I will be like, yes, go do it. Like, whatever it is. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person who's like pulling you back down, like, no, stay here. I was telling some of my leaders, this is just a quick good story, and then you could tell your take on this. So first of all, I thought it was a lobster, but apparently it's a crab that does this. But I was saying to them at a conference we were at, I was like, guys, when you want to do something that other people haven't seen someone do before, or they just don't know if that could be true, it's like having, I said lobsters in a bucket, but they said it's crabs in a bucket. If
Okay.
you've ever seen crabs in a bucket, okay, they'll all try to start crawling out because they don't want to be in the bucket. But as one of the crabs makes it almost to the top, another crab will pull them back down into the bucket so that they
Oh
can.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that before. Now that you say
Yes.
that, yes.
And so that's what it's like when you have goals and dreams. It's like you're like a crab with ambition and you really want to get out of the bucket. But there are other crabs who are like, who does she think she is? And they're going to try to pull you back into the bucket. You got to be willing to just like get out of the zone. So I don't know. What's
Yeah.
your take on like
Yeah, no,
reclaiming?
I mean, absolutely. I think it kind of builds on what we talked about earlier, right? With the feedback from other people, right? Everyone in your space, the vibes, the comments, the side eyes from others, they're going to come at you. You
Mhm,
have to come to a point where you are just so your conviction is stronger than all of that, right? You have to
mhm,
get comfortable with this is my truth. We've talked about truth in stories, but what is your truth? Like, you need to follow this goal or dream, whatever the case is. And you just have to go forward with it and accept the cringe, the weird. I said to Alyssa, like when I started posting more recently, like in my I'll say like my personal passion project or whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
feels very cringe every time I do it. And I'm like, you know, every time it's like, oh God, here we go. Because right now it's pretty much just people that I know that see
Right.
it, right? So I'm like,
Right.
oh God, they probably think, who does she think she is? Like
Right.
posting this and being acting like this or that, right? It is super uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, like I literally can't ignore it. I have to put it out there in the world. It just needs to happen, and at this point, I guess I don't want to say I'm comfortable being weird, but I just sort of ignore it. I roll with it a little bit, and you have to come to that point, right? Where what's the saying? It's like where it's more uncomfortable you're not going to change until the
So
feeling of
until,
staying the same is
yeah, till
more.
the
Go
pain of
ahead.
staying the same is greater than the pain to change.
Right, right, exactly. So, at some point, you can't ignore it. You just need to move forward. You have to embrace whatever comes with it and own it, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's really, really powerful. And it kind of goes into, okay, well, how do you do that? We're gonna kind of loop back to one of our last episodes around boundaries because
Mhm.
here they are back again because they're really important, right? And when it comes to your goals and dreams and ambitions, you have to set boundaries to make sure that you're on a path that you can follow them, right? So you have
Mhm.
to one, okay, like understand what they are. That's one thing, but you have to safeguard your goals and dreams. Like Alyssa said, you don't want to just share them with everyone because not everyone's going to understand them.
Right.
She mentioned this podcast coming to be, I reached out to Alyssa about something because I knew that I could share it with her because she just, would get it, right? Not everyone gets it. So you need
Mhm.
to, safeguard your dreams, find the people that you can confide in or the groups, the podcasts, the books that can help support that mindset that you need to be in
Yep.
to, power through. If you're constantly, taking in the negativity, like the people that are always complaining and it's always something and the negative news all the time, that's going to pull you back down to a place
Yep.
where you're not feeling very empowered.
Hmm.
You're going to feel like you have no control to make any change in your life, right? And so if you actually want to take this seriously, you need to be very intentional about what goes into your brain because that's the like most powerful tool that you have. And
Hmm.
so you have to, safeguard your goals and dreams. That's one boundary, but also, communicating those to people. So like if you are ready to take something seriously, um, you don't have to necessarily like share all of your dreams on, a deep level, but at least communicating to some extent, right, that this is important to you and you have some boundaries around it. So like for me, for instance, with Nick, something that came up more recently as I've been, spending more of my downtime, right, in pursuing, I'm going to call it like my personal passion project. I don't really know what else to call it right now. I've had to come with him like, okay, so I'm not gonna, come up to bed at the same time every night now, right? Like some nights I'm gonna be kind of doing my own thing, right? Like I'm doing some research or I'm doing some posts or I'm, whatever that might be. Like now I need some of that time for myself to pursue this. And I had to communicate that to him because I didn't at first, right? It was just like, oh, you're coming up or whatever, right? And I was like, no, no, no. Well, here's what it is, right? Like this is why like I'm kind of doing this off days or whatever, right? Kind of more communicating that just so it's
Yeah.
it's clear, like, okay, like this is important to her, right?
Hmm.
Or it could be like, okay, I'm gonna, sometimes it could be a Zoom or, something that you're doing related to it, like, okay, I'm gonna be offline like for an hour or something so I can do this
Yeah.
thing that's important to me. Just like letting people know you don't have to go into the details around it but just that, it's something that's important to you and they can be mindful of so
Hmm.
that everyone's on the same page. So there's a lot that goes in with that too. I mean, what other boundaries come to mind for you, Alyssa? Any
Mm,
in particular?
so I think for me, it's that, saying no, like learning, like we've talked about this, that's a boundary, like learning what to say no to because time
Yeah,
invested in one area is time away from another. So if there's something that you're really ambitious about right now, it's okay to say no to some things, even if it's only for a little while. Like no doesn't mean no forever. It just means no, not right now. So
yeah,
getting comfortable with letting people know that and knowing that you're actually, really respecting yourself by being clear with other people and respecting them by saying no. So just, not having guilt around the word no is something personally that I've had to work on. That's a boundary that I think is important when you're pursuing something.
yeah. It's super, super good point. I think the last one we kind of already talked about it, but came back to mind to mention is just the support system, right? So
Mhm.
along with filling your mind with, inspiration or like encouragement, that kind of stuff, right? It goes along with that in terms of support as well, right? So of those things that you're tuning into, the books, the podcasts, the people, right? Are they offering you help or guidance, encouragement, right? Like that's how you can
Yeah.
decide whether or not I think it's a good fit, right? Is
Hmm.
okay, what am I getting out of this? Am I feeling inspired? Am I getting
Yeah.
some actionable tips that I can bring into life? Am I feeling encouraged and motivated? Those are the things that you want to start to buffer around you, right? As your little, safeguard, right? And your
Yeah.
support system so that you are able to kind of withstand the challenges that are going to come up and the resistance that you're gonna face. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of goes into okay, here we are. We want to take some steps now, right? So for those of
Yes.
you that are listening, it's like, okay, there might be something that's coming to mind for you. Like, yeah, this is something that I've wanted to maybe dig into for a little bit. I haven't yet, let this serve as a sign to maybe give it some more thought. What do you think some small steps are, Alyssa, that someone could use to get started somewhere, right?
Yeah. I think one thing that you can do is really just sit down and get quiet with yourself about what it is that you want and just kind of like writing it out on paper, like putting it from your brain to paper, kind of what your goals are and what your thoughts are, because you have to be clear with yourself first about what it is that you want before you
Yep.
can really start like moving in that direction. And then I think it's, it's scheduling time to pursue it. It's like if you don't give yourself any time to pursue whatever that ambition is or take time to accomplish whatever the goal is, it's going to be harder to make that happen. So just setting aside time specifically for that. And when it comes to setting aside time, this is where that prioritizing piece comes in because you're going to have conversations with the people in your life about, hey, like this is a conversation I have with Danny sometimes. It's like, hey, I want to go do XYZ for my business on this day at this time. Are you cool with that? I'll, help with getting stuff set up with the kids. You know what I mean? It's those conversations, that teamwork within a relationship to make it happen because I know that he knows that if he had a goal or something he was working on in his business, that I would support that. But you have to be clear with those conversations because if you're not clear with those conversations, then that's when the other person can start to have like a resentment toward it. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like making sure that everybody is on the same page. I think it's finding people who are also like-minded thinkers like around you. That's some small steps. So, just to put into perspective as an example. So like if you're interested in starting a business of some kind, like some kind of, let's say you're going to make jewelry, like a handmade jewelry or something. Well, maybe you want to find like a group of business women in your area that you could talk to or bounce
Yeah.
ideas off of. You know what I mean? Like you just have to start getting around the right people, following certain people on social media, like on Instagram, like find people who are within that niche or like if it's, oh, I want to lose 25 pounds and that's your goal and ambition right now. Great. Start following people who can help you with that. Like it's getting in that mindset shift of what you really want because you're going to have self-doubt creep in. You're gonna have setbacks. Just so you know, whenever you set a goal, just know that there's going to be setbacks. And so part of that getting quiet when you set the goal is trying to already know in the forefront what are some setbacks that might be coming up. Like for me right now,
Oh, that's a
personally,
good point. So you're kind of prepared when they come
yeah,
up.
you're prepared for it. Like for me personally, right now, I have some goals in my business, and I just did our family schedule for May 2 days ago, like just firming everything up, making sure I had everybody, all the kids' schedules correctly. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to be creative.
Right
Do you know what I
time.
mean? Like, if this is what I really want, I'm gonna have to prioritize certain things differently. There's probably some things that I might have to say no to in that month that maybe I would normally want to say yes to. So it's just recognizing that there's going to be things that could potentially be setbacks. So, for example, one of the setbacks for me is probably going to be that it'll rain a couple days in May and
Mhm.
kids' games are going to get changed around. And I might schedule something now on a day when I don't think that they have something, and then it's going to rain, and then they might have something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like just being prepared. So it's just an example of a setback. As far as the self-doubt goes, I think it's important to stay listening to things that are positive. People laugh at me all the time. I don't watch the news. I
I
don't.
don't either.
It
Mhm.
too negative for me. I can't go there. But it's like I listen to other things that are positive. I still know what's going on. Like if there's something I need to know, don't worry, someone's going to tell
You can't avoid everything,
I can't
right? I
avoid it
mean,
all, right? But I don't, I just know where I have to keep my
yes.
head. It's celebrating when you have a win. I think that's an action step to take. So if you set a goal, um, what you're going to be able to say what this is because I always forget but it's SMART. What's the acronym for SMART?
Oh, yeah. So you
Like
mean SMART goals?
specific. Yeah, SMART
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah. Specific, measurable, attainable, I think it is, realistic, and time bound.
Yes. See, I knew that my corporate friend would know the answer to that. And but like with that, just knowing that as you kind of start to hit some of your goals that you've set, because you may have a big ambition, you got to break it down into bite-sized
Oh,
pieces.
yeah. Oh,
Like you
yeah.
can't expect that you're gonna just be woo making it right away. Not gonna happen. But when you chunk it up in bite-sized pieces, you have to celebrate yourself along the way because that keeps the motivation coming. So if it's losing 25 pounds, well, when you lose 2 pounds, celebrate. Like when you lose 5 pounds, celebrate. Like give yourself that feeling. So we just want to encourage you guys to share your goals with us so that we can be your
Yes,
biggest cheerleaders because
absolutely.
we believe in you. So
Yeah, and they could take so many different forms, like Alyssa mentioned, a couple different examples, right? But whatever it is, know that if you're feeling it or you're envisioning it, it's on your heart, it is absolutely meant for you. It's already there. You would not, have co-created that vision, that goal before, coming into this life if it was not possible for you. And so it's just all a matter of actually taking the
living
steps. It's all part of the growth process to,
it.
okay, we want to do this, let's challenge ourselves to do this. Like, let's make it happen. But it's not easy, but we're here to cheer you on for sure. So please share in the comments like what you're working on, or feel free to DM us through our Instagram or whatever comes up. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. I think, for me, it's always good just to reflect back and talk about this with another like-minded woman, right? Who's on the same page with me on this, because it does keep me fired up, right? It does remind me that, okay, yes, uh, you know, this is normal. It's right. It's good. I'm allowed to feel this way. It gives me that validation, and that's really, really important. And that's why community, I think, is really important for women in general, right? Because when we're just by ourselves and our thoughts and things start to seep in, it's very easy to change that perspective and to kind of let the doubt creep in. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this one. So let me just remind you all to smash the like button, as we like to say, smash, smash, smash. You make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If you're listening on audio, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. You should also be reviewing us if you're listening to us on audio. So give us a review, leave us some comments. That helps get our podcast pushed out to more people. And we're here just trying to make a difference, right? We're trying to make an impact and help as many women as we can. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for tuning in again or listening again. We're going to be back with a couple of special guests in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to throw in some more episodes so we don't have to wait the 2 weeks, but of course, give us grace. We're committing to two every other week, or we're committing to every other week, but we're
Yeah.
going to try to throw in as many extra as we can. So, Alyssa,
We're
any final thoughts or words on this?
No, but I think I did want to say, the topic that we talked about today, this podcast is it's like a perfect example of just
Yes.
like permission to dream about, doing something that's outside of your comfort zone and just, even if you feel unqualified in the moment, just walking it out. So,
So many pieces of it, right? Because it's one, okay, entertaining the thought, two, reaching out to someone and like this, hey, this crazy idea, or, here I am connecting with another woman about it. I know both of us had said, oh my gosh, once this was published, we were like, what did we do?
what did we do?
Right? What
What
did
are
we
we
do
doing?
here? Right? People are probably thinking, who the heck are they to think they can have a podcast? We don't
Yeah.
know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway because it's important to us and it is on our hearts. And so we're going with it.
Yeah,
Right.
and we
So
want your feedback. Like, we want to know how this is helping you. So please let us know because we appreciate you supporting our dream by listening.
absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, thank you again. We'll be back real soon and can't wait for the next topic. Have a good
Yes.
one. Bye.
Bye, everybody.